Michael Jordan thought he knew everything about his life, until a DNA test proved him wrong. What started as a joke revealed a secret so shocking it forced the greatest basketball legend of all time to break down in tears and call his ex-wife after years of silence. This isn't about championships. This is about a truth that changed his life forever. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened. It was never meant to be serious. Just a joke. Something casual. Something harmless. Michael Jordan, the man who conquered basketball courts, shattered records, and built a legacy larger than life, had faced pressure that would break ordinary people. Game-winning shots. Championship finales. Millions of eyes watching his every move. Compared to all that, a simple DNA test felt meaningless. The idea surfaced during a quiet evening with a few close friends. No cameras. No interviews. Just laughter, stories, and relaxed conversation drifting from one topic to another. At some point, someone began talking about family roots and ancestry. Where their grandparents came from, what secrets old bloodlines might hide. Then, half-jokingly, someone looked at Jordan and said, "Why don't you take one of those DNA tests? Let's see where you really come from." Jordan laughed. He had heard it all before. After decades of fame, what could possibly surprise him now? He had always believed his story was complete. He knew his upbringing. He knew his family. He knew his past, or at least, that's what he thought. His life had been documented in headlines, books, and documentaries. There were no mysteries left to uncover. So he agreed. Not because he was curious. Not because he was searching for answers. But simply because he was bored. Days turned into weeks. The test kit was sent off and forgotten. Life moved on, meetings, commitments, responsibilities. The idea of that DNA test slowly faded into the background, buried beneath the routine of a life still moving at full speed. Then one quiet morning, everything changed. His phone buzzed with a notification. An email. 3 simple words stared back at him. "Your DNA results are ready." Michael Jordan opened the email casually, without a second thought. But within seconds, the smile on his face vanished. Because for the first time in his life, something had just appeared that he was not prepared to face at first. Everything looked normal. The screen displayed the usual information: ancestry percentages, genetic traits, health markers, numbers, charts, and clean digital graphics. Nothing alarming. Nothing unexpected. Michael Jordan scrolled casually, his mind already drifting away from the moment. Then his eyes stopped. One line stood out. A close genetic match. Not distant. Not historical. Immediate family. Jordan leaned forward, his confidence fading. He read the line again, slowly this time, as if reading it faster might change the meaning. The report wasn't suggesting a long-lost ancestor or a distant relative from generations ago. It was pointing to something living. Present. Real. The words felt heavy. The match indicated the presence of a previously unknown child, a biological connection so strong that there was no room for interpretation. No assumptions. No confusion. Just truth. Jordan stared at the screen, frozen. His fingers hovered over the phone as he refreshed the page. Once. Twice. Maybe it was an error. A system glitch. A misunderstanding. But the result didn't change. This wasn't possible. He had lived under a microscope his entire life. Every relationship, every marriage, every move he made had been examined, criticized, and broadcast to the world. The idea that something this massive could exist without his knowledge felt impossible. At least, that's what he believed. His heart began to pound, harder than it ever had during a final second shot. This wasn't competition. There was no opponent to defeat. No scoreboard to watch. The test wasn't asking him questions. It was giving answers. For the first time in decades, Michael Jordan felt something unfamiliar creeping into his chest. Fear. Not fear of losing a game. Not fear of failing publicly. But fear of the past, resurfacing, uninvited, and demanding to be acknowledged. And deep down, he knew. Some truths don't disappear just because you never went looking for them. As the shock of the DNA results began to settle, memories came rushing back, vivid, uninvited, impossible to ignore. One relationship kept repeating in his mind, a chapter of his life that had ended quietly, painfully, and without closure. His ex-wife, the woman who had known him before championships multiplied, before his brand became global, before the relentless pressure and fame reshaped his world. Michael Jordan sat alone in his spacious living room, the bright daylight streaming through large windows doing nothing to ease the weight in his chest. He replayed moments he hadn't thought about in years. Conversations, small disagreements, nights of silence, arguments left unresolved. Every memory seemed sharper now, echoing louder than before. Suddenly, details he had overlooked for decades demanded attention. Dates that never lined up perfectly. Emotional distance he hadn't understood at the time. A goodbye that felt too easy, almost casual, when deep down, it should have carried more weight. What if there was something she had never told him? What if a secret had quietly existed all along? Jordan's chest tightened. His heartbeat accelerated. For a man celebrated for his composure, his focus, his emotional control under pressure, this was something entirely different. There were no cameras. No cheering crowds. No trophies. This wasn't about pride, reputation, or image. It was about blood. About responsibility. About a life, a child, who may have grown up without ever knowing their father. He realized the enormity of the moment. The stakes were not a game, not a record, not another championship. This was real life, and real lives could be profoundly affected. After a long, heavy pause, Jordan reached for something he hadn't touched in years. Something that would change everything. He picked up the phone. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then, finally, she answered. At first, the conversation was hesitant, filled with the kind of polite words exchanged between two people separated not just by distance, but by time, memory, and old pain. Years had passed since they had last spoken like this. Yet Jordan didn't waste a moment. The words he had held back for decades surged forward, raw and urgent. His voice cracked. I took a DNA test, and the results don't make sense. There was silence on the other end. A long, heavy pause that seemed to stretch for an eternity. Jordan could hear his own heartbeat, feel the weight of what he had just uncovered pressing down on him. Then, she spoke. Her voice was soft, quiet, but filled with truth. And in that instant, Michael Jordan, the legendary athlete who had faced impossible odds and global pressure, finally broke down. Tears rolled down his face as she confirmed what the test had revealed. During a difficult period in their relationship, she had discovered she was pregnant. But she had made the choice to keep it private after their separation. Not out of revenge. Not out of greed. But out of fear. Fear of the relentless media. Fear of public scrutiny. Fear of raising a child under the intense spotlight that surrounded Jordan's life. Jordan listened, the full weight of lost years pressing on him. No reporters. No flashing cameras. No trophies to console him. Just a man confronting the truth he had missed, a life he had been absent from. And as he whispered apologies, not as a global legend, not as an icon, but as a father who never knew he was one, he felt the depth of responsibility settle in. The moment would change him forever. The call ended, but the weight of its truth didn't. Michael Jordan didn't speak publicly about the DNA test. There were no press releases, no interviews, no headlines confirming anything. Because this wasn't about fame. It wasn't about protecting an image. This was deeply personal. Something far more important than any record, trophy, or endorsement. In the weeks that followed, Jordan's focus shifted completely. Not to money. Not to awards. Not to his legacy as a global icon. He focused on connection. Time with someone he had unknowingly missed. Rebuilding a bond that should have started years ago. Those close to him began to notice subtle changes. The man who had always been driven, relentless, and laser-focused became quieter. More reflective. Less obsessed with proving himself to the world. He had faced thousands of defenders on the court, but now he faced something far harder, himself and the consequences of a life partially unknown to a child who was his own. Jordan came to a profound realization. Championships may build legends, but honesty builds families. The DNA test, taken as a joke, reminded him that some truths are bigger than fame or fortune. No matter how high you rise, no matter how untouchable you seem, the past has a way of finding you. And sometimes, the bravest move a person, even a legend, can make isn't on the court. It isn't winning a title or breaking a record. It's facing the truth. Owning responsibility. Being present for the life that had always been part of you, even when you didn't know it. For Michael Jordan, that truth became a new kind of victory. One measured not in points or rings, but in love, honesty, and the courage to do what's right, no matter how late it may seem.